Uh, Good evening and welcome to the Select Board meeting for September 16th, 2020. It's 7 p.m. and I have with me Michael Zulis, Kathleen Conlon, Michael Dennehy, Town Administrator, Arthur Doyle, Richard Wells, Kevin Freitag, our Town Council, and Thomas Doherty, the board's MCAC rep. So first, I would like people to join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a recently added agenda item. An announcement came out within 48 hours of our meeting, and it's time sensitive. It has to do with an announcement by the FAA, and our MCAC rep, Thomas Doherty, is here to share it with us. Mr.
Thank
Doherty?
you. Yes, may I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So yesterday, the Federal Aviation Administration announced that on Monday, this upcoming Monday, September 21, 2020, the FAA will release its draft environmental assessment for a GPS satellite-based approach procedure to runway 4 left at Boston Logan Airport. The FAA also will commence that day a 60-day public comment period, which therefore ends on November 20, 2020. The FAA announcement states, quote, "The proposed new procedure closely follows the path of the existing visual approach for runway 4 left." Yesterday also, the FAA published a notice with its image of a proposed runway 4 left GPS path, and I have posted that FAA statement and image of its GPS path on the town's website at Massport CAC, a section of that website. It's titled FAA Workshop Flyer, September 15, 2020. And I think we can put that up now so you can see what it looks like. There. And you'll see on the left side the image with the FAA statement of the waypoints. The FAA, as stated in this flyer, will hold 2 virtual public meetings by Zoom Internet to inform the community and answer questions about the draft environmental assessment and proposed new procedure. The FAA states that it will consider the input it receives during the comment period as it develops the final determination, which the FAA states it expects to issue in early 2021. The draft EA and information about its virtual meetings are also posted at FAABostonWorkshops.com beginning September 21. You can go there. Residents can register for the FAA's virtual meetings beginning September 21 at the FAA's website, FAABostonWorkshops.com. The FAA's virtual meetings will occur on the following 2 dates in October. Friday, October 23, 2020 from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and Wednesday, October 28, 2020 from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. so that people can choose to attend one or the other. The FAA will also live stream the meetings on its Facebook and YouTube pages, and residents who are not able to access online or access the internet can access the session by calling an FAA listed phone line. That's the substance of the FAA's announcement yesterday, September 15, 2020. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. And we're going to be moving agenda items around a little bit. number 3 we'll skip over for the moment because that's closure of the warrant. And first we want to discuss and approve the submitted articles. So has everyone had a chance to look at, there are 3 articles, 2 budget articles, and then the Fire Station Building Committee article? Does anyone have any comments or questions about the articles? No? Or Mr. Zulus?
Just one question, and I don't know that we know the answer to it at this point. On the fire station building committee article, do we have a sense as yet in terms of the number, the amount of money that's going to be requested?
No. But when they're closer to having it, I believe that they'll also come in and perhaps do a presentation to the board on that. But they don't have that yet. Mr. Dennehy, do you?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Member Zulus, I spoke with Dan Clark, the co-chair or the vice chair of the Fire Building Committee. They had a meeting last night. He would like to present when they know more to this board at an upcoming meeting.
So just to for the edification of the public, one of the budget articles is to change some appropriations, and we don't have details for that yet. And the other is possibly looking at the stabilization fund. But the finance committee still has some work to do on numbers. And then the fire station building committee article is for appropriations for design and building.
And Madam Chair, I think it's normal course anyway to have the details on the budget articles be worked out through the recommendations. So the articles just ask what adjustments will be made, and then the recommendation of the warrant committee, which we may want to make a recommendation to them for their recommendation, can flesh out the detail in terms of what the adjustments are.
Yes, and I understand it's the same with the fire station warrant article as well, that the details will be in the recommendation. Yes, Mr. Freitag?
Good evening, Madam Chair. I just wanted to point out that the article regarding the Fire Station Building Committee doesn't include the line identifying the board from which the article has been submitted. If that's a select board article, just let me know and I can make that, acknowledge that change tonight and then vote the article with that submission line in it.
I believe it is a select board article. Does anyone think differently?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, the fire station building committee article, it comes from the select board, correct?
No, it comes from the fire station building committee.
So it comes directly from them. Okay. Mr. Freitag, did you hear that? Okay. So the motion will be slightly different then, but I'll entertain a motion. Somebody will need to make note of that change. Mr. Zulus?
I just wanted, just for clarification, is it fair to say that the articles on amending the appropriations and on the stabilization fund are really placeholder articles at this point because we don't know? We don't know what the effect of the state budget will be on local aid at this point, and we don't know how the budget's going to come out. So these are effectively placeholders until we find out what happens with the budget?
Well, my feeling is we do know some things about our budget situation, and that's what we're going to be working with. We're not making, at least my understanding is, I'm not comfortable making assumptions or any about what might happen with the state budget. But Ms. Conlon, since you're the chair of the finance committee, maybe you could weigh in on this.
Well, yeah, I don't like to call them placeholder articles just because this would be the final text of the article rather than, sometimes people use that meaning the article might get revised, which we're trying to move away from because that the articles should be in final form when they're submitted. But if you're using placeholder, Mike, in terms of whether we go forward with any changes, then I guess that's a fair point. We know that there's some potential new growth numbers that have changed. So aside from the state budget, it may be important to have the town meeting for that purpose alone. So in that sense, I guess you could. I think that's true, if that's the sense.
Yeah, that was my thought. Was just we don't know what is going to have to be done at this point. We don't know what, if anything, is going to have to be amended, and what, if anything, we'd have to take from the stabilization fund because things are very fluid, as I understand it.
Well, in the way this one is written, Madam Chair, it's just to appropriate to the stabilization fund rather than withdraw. So this is really just it may be that we don't appropriate anything, but it's there in case we want to return any of the $1 million we borrowed from the stabilization fund. That was the purpose in submitting a separate article for the stabilization fund.
Right, exactly. If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we submit the 2 finance articles and accept the Fire Station Building Committee's article for the warrant for the December 2020 special town meeting.
Second.
All those in favor, Ms. Conlon?
Aye. Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zulus?
Yes.
Ms. Collins, yes. Excellent, thank you. So now we can close the warrant, and it's.
I'll make it, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to close the warrant for December 7th, 2020 special town meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zulus?
Yes.
Ms. Collins, yes. Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to look at the index page? It's not lengthy. So I'll entertain a motion.
Actually, I haven't seen it, but are the 2 finance articles up front? I'm just trying to pull it up.
Yes. So it's
Madam Chair,
one.
I'll make the motion just for purpose of discussion. I'll make a motion to approve the index of the town meeting articles for December 7th, 2020 special town meeting.
Second.
Yeah, this is fine to me.
Oh, you found it. Okay, good. All those in favor, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zulus?
Yes.
Ms. Collins, yes. Excellent. Next, we have our town green use policy, which I appreciate Ms. Conlon and Mr. Freitag continuing to work on this and get it in shape for us. Are there any questions or comments? And I think everyone got the revised, a red line and the clean copy.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve it for the purpose of discussion if you'd like that.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to, go ahead. No? Okay, so I'll make that motion to approve the town green use policy.
Second.
Okay. So, Mr. Freitag?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kevin Freitag, Town Council. I just wanted to point out, it may affect your motion that, as you recall, there was a previous motion made by this board, a vote by this board to put in place a temporary policy use and authorization for the town administrator regarding the use of the gazebo and the town green. That's going to be, if the board decides to go forward with this policy tonight, superseded by that tonight's vote. So to the extent perhaps that the board just wanted to acknowledge that earlier vote and that this vote would supersede that vote, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you. And may I ask a question before you mute? So it says in our motion here, as presented by Town Council, and was the reason for that the fact that this would supersede our previous, or?
Yes, the vote that the board previously took, which I believe was on August 26th, was on a sort of a temporary policy that expanded the policy that was in place, gave the town administrator some additional authorization from this board to permit use or approve applications to use the gazebo or the town green, subject to the board taking up the matter again and voting a permanent policy.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Wells.
Okay, Kevin, you can weigh in on this. I'd amend my motion by inserting the word updated and the motion would read to approve the updated town green use policy as presented by town council.
That works.
he gave you the thumbs up, Richard.
Okay, so
Madam
no,
Chair,
Chair,
I was
you
going
don't
to
want
say, I mean, the name of the policy is actually the policy and permit application for use of the town green and/or the Baron Hugo gazebo. So that really should probably be in the motion.
Okay, thank you. Policy, permit, application, and release. Yes, that's okay.
I'll accept all that as a friendly amendment, so I don't have to read it again if you've got it, Madam Chair.
Yes. Do we need that seconded again? Or no, because Richard accepted it as a friendly amendment.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any discussions or questions? Mr. Doyle?
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer two friendly amendments and then ask a couple of related questions. In item number 6, I'd like to offer that a fee of $100 for non-resident applicants might be a bit light. The intention being to deposit to the gazebo fund. If one looks at the process, it would cost $100 just to process the paper and all likelihood. So I would think for out-of-town applicants, or non-resident applicants, something in the vicinity of $200 to $250 would be more appropriate. And in item number 13, where it reads, the applicant shall be responsible for any damage to the town green or the Baron Hugo gazebo that occurs during the event. I'd like to add, comma, as well as any adjacent town properties.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So on the second one, I'm fine. On the first one, my one concern is just having some knowledge of the history of those who have used it in the past. Many times it's members of churches on both sides who will use it, or, something like that. I just, even though they're not a resident, if they're a member of like one of our organizations or one of our local religious churches, I wouldn't want to hit them with, so I don't know, and I'm not sure how to address that. I'm not even sure how many non-residents we get, but I do know we would get, I can think of one that I went to myself. It was actually a town employee who didn't live here, but worked here for 30 years. That's just in the reality of the types of things that do happen there.
And also, Richard brings to mind the fact that there may be some former residents who might be coming back as well.
That's another one as well. That you're right.
I'm open. I'm not hard and fast on that. I just want to have us thinking about how we assign rates for different things, and then maybe in this instance, the $100 is fine at this time. I'm not going to quibble over that.
Would anyone?
I think the $100 is fine because we've increased from 50 to 100, so that's a pretty significant increase. At one time, it's been 50 for a long time, and the research that Jennifer McCullough did showed that of the towns she looked at, the rates were really all over the map. Some of them were as low as 25. Some of them were 100 for 2 hours, Arthur. Some of them were 200 to 250. So there's quite a range out there. And I think since we're increasing it already by a large amount, I would be reluctant to go above 100 at this point. Down the road, that might be something that should be re-examined periodically.
I'll accept that. We could take a look at it later.
Okay.
I'm not sure we'd want to do this, but and I agree. I thought that the $100 that is probably where we should be. But I was just wondering if we might want to put a line in about accepting donations from residents who might want to have some kind of occasion at the gazebo. I know if I were doing something, I would be happy to make a donation to the fund. It's one of our iconic pieces of property, and I think a lot of residents would like to do that. I don't know if this is the right place to do it or not, but if you're applying, it's right here. So, but other than that,
I'm fine with that.
I didn't have any other comments other than I really appreciate the change that talks about the hours of use, 9 a.m. to dusk, unless we permit otherwise. So to have the discretion to do that for some events, I really appreciate. So thank you for the thoughtfulness on that.
Just a question on that part of it, Madam Chair. That applies to non-town events. So, like, if the park department or schools, if the park don't wanted to have a movie theater night there one night, they could still do that. Am I correct?
I think that's up to us. I know that Ms. Conlon was thinking about the tree lighting that the Rotary has.
Right. That happens every year. That's after dusk. That's at night.
Yeah, but I think yes, just to keep the options open and not prohibit things like that.
I do believe that Aries Races drill that takes place every year is a 24-hour drill, and they spend the night there.
Oh.
Granted, there's only 4 or 5 of them, but I know that it goes through the night.
Okay. Well, so there are other uses too. Okay. So I don't know what people think about the line about donation. I don't have language for that at the moment. It just came to me. So, Mr. Freitag?
Yes, Madam Chair, I might just suggest that in paragraph 6, that there be a new third sentence inserted. So after these monies will be deposited into the Baron Hugo Fund and used for maintenance of the Baron Hugo gazebo, it may say resident applicants may make a donation to the Baron Hugo gazebo fund, period.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Mr. Wells has accepted it as a friendly amendment, and also I believe accepted was as well as any town properties, or was adjacent.
As well as any adjacent town property.
I thought. Okay, my writing is.
That's all right.
Madam Chair, why don't we change that so that number 13 says the applicant shall be responsible for any damage to the town green, the Baron Hugo gazebo, or any adjacent town property that occurs during the event.
That
I'll
sounds.
accept that.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Zulus, we couldn't hear you.
Yes.
Ms. Collins, yes. Thank you. And thank you again, Ms. Conlon and Attorney Freitag for working on that. Now we move on to items 7 and 8. I move pursuant to General Laws Chapter 30A, Section 28A3, sometimes called Purpose 3, that the Select Board enter into executive session to discuss litigation strategy with respect to potential litigation on pending zoning enforcement action, on my belief that having these discussions in open session will have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the body, and not to return to open session. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes?
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Ms. Collins, yes. And I would like to further move, pursuant to General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A1, sometimes called Purpose 1, that the Select Board enter into executive session to discuss a complaint against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual, specifically an open meeting law complaint made by Dr. Cindy Christensen against the Select Board and the Select Board's response to the complaint not to return to open session.
Second.
All those in favor, Ms. Conlon,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes?
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Ms. Collins, yes.